tariff protection has always been an important economic policy tool for countries to protect and support local industries where it's imperative. And, in the 70s, in the 80s, we started by that. We had huge protection for rice industry. We had protection for manufacturing. Some of it is still continuing. And these were all done in line with the fair market practices that eventually encourage competition and consumer options, which could lead to price reduction as well. And the idea of tariff protection, in economics, we call it infant industry argument, where tariff protection is given to allow industries to grow up, to compete, and then, progressively you reduce the tariff. Historically, Mr. Speaker, Fiji has had substantial protection for numerous local business industries, and we started with tariff reforms, and it actually started under the leadership of the Honourable Prime Minister, Honourable Sitiveni Rambuka, in the 1990s. And it was designed to promote, trade liberalization. And in some sense, this outward-looking strategy for economic growth, paid dividend. So despite the initial reforms, certain protections persisted and were supported by all governments in Fiji, and continued over a period of time. Some, however, have been gradually phased out, and the subsequent phased out involved assessing and lowering of fiscal duties. And the most common form of protection, Mr. Speaker, is tariff protection, import duties, a tax on imports. So, of course, the old strategy again was quota, but most countries don't go towards quota anymore. It's basically tariff protection. The global, trading environment is one designed to gradually reduce tariff. So, Mr. Speaker, in terms of the poultry industry, this is one of the most heavily protected industries in Fiji. Good news as a result of that we are almost self-sufficient. However, self-sufficiency and the support for local industry, Mr. Speaker, must be carefully balanced with the cost to our people. Because what happens is sometimes when the tariff rate is very high, even if the item is imported, the cost to the consumers can be very, very high. And we need to ensure that industries that get tariff protection are at the same time able to reduce prices, improve quality, and offer greater choice to consumers. So in the budget, Mr. Speaker, we recognize and we reduce the import excise duty on chicken portions from 10 to 0%, not 15 to 0. So it was the import excise duty on chicken portions only, not whole chicken, from 10 to 0% and not from 15 to 0% as the question puts out. So that's why I said factually incorrect. But more importantly, Mr. Speaker, despite the reduction from 10 to 0 in the import excise duty, the duty of 32% still remains. So even if somebody who is importing chicken portions today, that importer still pays 32% instead of the original 42%. So a total tariff protection of 42% is still applicable for anything which includes whole chicken other than the chicken portion. Because what we found out, Mr. Speaker, when we were doing the budget, even with the 42% duty, some of the importers of chicken portions, chicken wings, chicken drumstick, were still able to sell in the local market at a lower price than our local producers. And that, to me, was in some sense unethical. So we haven't completely, and we made sure, because we realized that the whole chicken still has a duty of 42%. The other thing that we have in this country, Mr. Speaker, is that we are only at the moment importing chicken from New Zealand. You know, if you import chicken from Indonesia, for example, and Indonesia has quality chicken. Japan imports, from the figures that I saw, about 40% of chicken from Indonesia. And if we allow import of chicken from Indonesia, we probably end up landing the chicken here with 42% duty and still selling those chicken at a much lower price than what our local producers sell. So what we did in the budget, we reduced the duty and we extended it to lamb, beef, prawns, ducks, corned meat, tin fish, to facilitate price reductions for domestic products. And what we found, Mr. Speaker, that the prices of some of those items actually came down. So while we reduced the duty on chicken portions, we have still maintained a high level of protection for the whole chicken, which is about 42%, 32% fiscal duty, plus the 10% import excise. And this is, again, I want to repeat, Mr. Speaker said, this is the highest level of protection. And after the budget, some of the producers played funny. I mean, we had this, and it was all designed to bring out this negativity about the budget. And suddenly, because of the budget, because of the increase in VAT from 9 to 15% on some of the items, that suddenly the price of chickens went up. And then when the government intervened, the prices were brought down. The other point that we want to make, Mr. Speaker, is the local producers, between the three of them, they employ 2,400 people. And we know that even with the reduction in duty for chicken portions, their profitability has not been affected. Because the sign that we are getting, Honorable DPM Kamgida the other day, officiated at the new investment made by Crest, another 22 million. And all the producers that we had discussion are actually, in the end, satisfied with what the government had done. So I do not see, Mr. Speaker, any significant impact on the local production as far as the investment, as far as what the three producers are getting. But the point I want to make, Mr. Speaker, again, is, as I said, that the poultry industry is still one of the most heavily protected industry, and government is paying for it. So when we put those very high duty, the cost, even if there was zero VAT, if you raise the duty, it's a tax on the consumers. The people who import, Mr. Speaker, say they don't pay for those taxes. All they do is simply pass it on to the consumers. So if somebody imports whole chicken, say from New Zealand, they pay 42% duty, and if they sell it in the market, they're not the ones who are going to subsidize. They simply add that 42% onto the cost, and the consumers. So the signal that we provided in the budget, Mr. Speaker, was to say to the local producers, look at your pricing, look at your efficiency. Don't just concentrate on making exorbitant profit at the cost of the prices to the consumers. And in terms of jobs, 2,400, yes, we appreciate that. 2,400 families or less than that. But the important thing is that we have 800,000 people in the country. So that's the message that we wanted to give to the producers as a result of what we did, and it brought down the prices of chicken portions, wings, and people appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Sachida, supplementary question?
Honourable Speaker. However, Honourable Speaker, before I ask the supplementary question, I'd like to correct the Deputy Prime Minister. In the Hansard report of 30th June, Friday 30th June 2023, it said, and I quote, the government will also reduce excise, import excise on chicken portions such as wings, drumsticks, legs, feet, thighs, etc. from 15% to 0%. It is mentioned 15% to 0%. So if you are saying this is wrong, you should have gone and corrected the Hansard. So the question is, has your reduction in duty worked? Because how long does it take for a whole chicken to be cut in 4 or 5 portions and shipped to Fiji to destroy our local chicken industry? And you have set the precedence. So has the reduction in duty from 15%, which is mentioned in the Hansard, to 0%, has it worked? Has the price of chicken portions come down significantly?
Thank you, Honorable.
I think the honourable member, I don't know, in the budget, Mr. Speaker said it's very clear, it's from 10 to 0. That's the protection is duty that could be a mistake. But the point is, Mr. Speaker, when you reduce the duty, and the duty, as I said very clearly, is not reduced on whole chicken. And I also said that even with the 42% duty, those who were importing chicken portions were actually selling at a lower price than what was available locally. And the price of chicken portions now being imported with a reduction in duty of 10%, the import excise duty, the prices have gone down. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. One more. Yes, Honorable Pramila.
Thank you, sir. My question is more related from the consumer perspective. The intent of the policy was to assist consumers to get affordable protein. The intention was good. But if you look at the pricing itself, Mr. Speaker, sir, with 15% VAT increase, 10% reduction in the duty, still the price has not been cheaper. Chicken is consumed by each and every household. If you go to the supermarket, you can see the price have gone up. So in fact, my question to the minister is, can the minister admit that his policy failed and it failed the consumers?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sometimes I don't get what the opposition is trying to point out. You know, what is their point? On one hand, they're worried about the impact on the producers. Suddenly, they turn away from consumers to be concerned about the impact it will have on the producers. Then they're saying, oh, you know, because of the reduction in the duty, you're not going to have the answer to her question. Firstly, she's wrong because the VAT of 9, it's not an increase of 15%. VAT was increased from 9 to 15%. Before the budget, Mr. Speaker, we had 3 rates of VAT. We had 0 on basic food items, we had 9 on others, and we had 15. So when she's saying that, she's caught now. She said VAT increased by 15%. VAT only increased by 6%. The reduction in duty was 10%. So there is a net reduction in the cost, that the 4% net reduction in the cost of the producers. And that is being passed on to the consumers, and the price in the market, if they go around and look at it, go and ask the consumers, those who are buying chicken portions, chicken wings, chicken drumstick, they find that the prices have gone down further, because even with the 9% VAT, even with the 42% duty, the prices were lower than what was being made locally. So that's a policy that is working. It's a signal to the producers to look at their own pricing, become more competitive, and pass better prices to the consumers.
Thank you. Yes, Honorable Maharaj.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, my supplementary question to this particular question would be, while we actually give duty protection to certain industries in Fiji, is government actually looking at some kind of price regulations? Because what we have actually seen, some of these companies, when they are actually given duty protection of 33%, at the end of the day, their gross profit is much more than what the duty protection is. So if we are actually giving duty protection, is government actually...
Honorable Maharaj, the issue regarding the first question that was raised is to do with chicken.
Yes. And this is also...
15,
yes.
0 to 10 of VAT that has been added and decreased, and that's the argument that is going around. So what really? Are you still referring to the...
Still referring to the poultry industry.
There are only 3 producers that are going to be
because
affected.
if there are only 2 or 3, price cartelling can go on, and I think Minister of Finance is well versed with this particular scenarios where it has actually happened in past. So what I'm actually asking is all the industries that do get duty protection, is government actually intending to do some price regulation so that this massive GP is not actually obtained by these particular industries? Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Yes, Honourable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. See, I think the question makes a lot of sense, and I thank the Honourable Member because, you know, he is right. If the producers are not passing the protection, the benefits of protection, the profits that they make to the consumers, then it's unethical. And some of them engage in unethical pricing. And I think as a government, I mean, price control is always and economically not the best thing to do when you're trying to promote competition and all that. But if the government finds that our producers, having had this huge protection, are not moving towards providing a price which makes sense from their point of view, the profit they make, and what the government provides in terms of protection, Mr. Speaker said, then the question is right that government will have to look at, you know, price regulation as well. I mean, I think there is a end of week statement on the dairy industry, but, you know, for 10 years, we had 32% protection for the import of dairy products. We protected one company, and look at the prices of milk, butter and all that for the last, until that 10-year period ended, and you now see a reduction in the price of milk products or dairy products generally. And so, Mr. Speaker, say the issue about price regulation in the face of a lot of protection, which means that producers, and some of them have carried on like this for many, many years at the expense of the consumers. So the signal that we provided as a result of the decision we made on chicken portions is exactly that signal, Mr. Speaker said, and we want the producers to think about it carefully, pass the right prices to the consumers, at the same time, you know, keep on investing and making profit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, what's in the box? See.
It's so new and fresh!
Looks better, eh?
This is everything I could have ever wanted.
What you looking at? Oi, you're gonna have to find out.